Captain Jake Morrison stood at the main window of New Haven Station, looking out at the stars. 300 years ago, his people had called one of those distant lights home, Earth, the blue planet where humanity was born, where they built cities and dreamed of touching the stars. Now it belonged to others. The Zephyrians had come without warning. Their ships filled Earth's sky like black clouds, and their warriors moved like shadows through human cities. They called it the cleansing. Humanity called it the end of everything they knew. Those who survived the attack scattered across space, hiding on forgotten worlds and building new lives from nothing. Captain, Lieutenant Katie Blake's voice came through the comm system. You need to see this. Morrison turned away from the window and walked to the command center. New Haven Station was built inside a massive asteroid, carved out by mining lasers and human determination. It housed nearly 2 million people and served as humanity's main military base. The station's corridors buzzed with activity as soldiers, engineers, and civilians went about their daily work. Katie stood at her workstation, her face pale. She had been monitoring deep space for 5 years, watching for any sign of Zephyrian activity. Her job was to make sure they stayed hidden from their enemies. What have you found? Morrison asked. Katie pointed to her screen. One of our long-range probes picked this up near the Sol system. Captain, the Zephyrian defense grid around Earth is failing. Morrison stared at the data. For 3 centuries, the aliens had surrounded Earth with massive space stations and weapon platforms. Nothing could get close to the planet without being destroyed. But now, according to the probe's reading, several stations had gone dark. Are you sure about this? Morrison asked. I've checked it 3 times, Katie replied. Something is happening in Zephyrian space. Their empire is having problems. Dr. Alex Rodriguez entered the command center carrying a data pad. Alex had spent 20 years studying Zephyrian technology and society. He knew more about humanity's enemies than almost anyone alive. Captain, I've been analyzing the reports from our other colonies, Alex said. The Zephyrians are pulling ships back from the outer territories. Their bioengineered soldiers are rebelling in several systems. The psychic network they use to control their forces is breaking down. Morrison felt his heart beat faster. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had seemed impossible to defeat. Their warriors were stronger and faster than humans. Their ships used technology that humans barely understood. Most dangerous of all, they could control other beings with their minds, forcing enemies to fight for them. How is this possible? Morrison asked. Alex smiled. They made the same mistake that all dictators make. They believed their own propaganda. The Zephyrians thought they were perfect, so they never changed or improved. For 300 years, they've used the same tactics, the same technology, the same strategies. And what have we been doing for 300 years? Katie asked. Learning, Alex replied. Adapting. Surviving against impossible odds. Every day we've had to be smarter, tougher, and more creative just to stay alive. The Zephyrians stayed the same while we evolved. Morrison walked back to the window. In the distance, he could see human ships moving between the asteroid fields. Destroyers built from salvaged parts, fighters designed in hidden shipyards, transport vessels that had carried refugees across the galaxy for generations. They didn't look like much compared to Zephyrian warships, but they represented something the aliens had forgotten about. Hope. Alex, tell me about our weapons, Morrison said. We've developed quantum jump drives that can move our ships instantly across short distances, Alex explained. Our plasma forge weapons can punch through any armor the Zephyrians have. But our greatest advantage is the neural shielding we developed 15 years ago. Morrison nodded. The neural shields were humanity's secret weapon, small devices implanted behind the ear. They made humans invisible to Zephyrian mind control. The aliens had never faced an enemy they couldn't dominate mentally. How many ships can we put together? Morrison asked. Katie checked her records. If we call in every colony, every hidden base, every refugee fleet, maybe 800 vessels. It's not a lot compared to the Zephyrian Navy. Numbers don't matter if your enemy can't adapt, Alex said. The Zephyrians expect us to fight like the species they've conquered before. They expect us to form battle lines and trade shots until the stronger force wins. They don't expect human tactics. Morrison thought about his father, who had died in the evacuation of Earth. His grandfather, who had fought in the last battle above Luna. Generations of humans had dreamed of going home, but it had always seemed impossible. Now, for the first time in 3 centuries, it might actually be possible. Katie, send a message to all colony commanders, Morrison said. Tell them to prepare their fleets for mobilization. We're going home, sir. Katie looked surprised. All of them. That would mean the largest military operation in human history, Morrison finished. Alex, I want you to contact our allies. The other species the Zephyrians have enslaved. It's time to see if they're ready to fight for their freedom. Alex grinned. The Korath have been building ships in secret for 50 years. The Thessians have weapons technology that could help us. Captain, this could actually work. Morrison activated the station-wide communication system. Throughout New Haven, people stopped what they were doing to listen. This is Captain Morrison, he said. For 300 years we have lived in exile. We have hidden in the dark corners of space while our enemies grew fat and lazy on our homeworld. They thought they had broken us. They thought they had won. He paused, looking out at the stars again. They were wrong. Today we begin the journey home. Today we start taking back what was stolen from us. The Zephyrian Empire is crumbling, and we're going to help it fall. Prepare for mobilization. Prepare for war. Prepare to see Earth again. Cheers echoed through the station's corridors. In the command center, Katie was already sending orders to the human colonies. Alex was contacting their secret allies. And Morrison was planning the impossible. 300 years of exile were about to end. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could do when they had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The long journey home was finally beginning. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the battleship Freedom's Call, watching dozens of human ships arrive at the secret rally point. 3 weeks had passed since Morrison's message went out to all the colonies. Now the largest human fleet in 3 centuries was gathering in the empty space between stars. Lisa had been chosen to lead the Liberation Fleet because she understood both strategy and sacrifice. Her family had died defending the Mars colonies during the first Zephyrian attacks. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. Admiral, the Titan's Revenge just dropped out of quantum jump, reported Commander Ryan Phillips, her tactical officer. That makes 312 ships confirmed. Lisa nodded as she watched the massive dreadnought take its position in the formation. The Titan's Revenge had been built in secret over 50 years, constructed piece by piece in a hidden shipyard behind a gas giant. It was humanity's most powerful warship, armed with weapons that could crack open a moon. Any word from our reconnaissance teams? Lisa asked. Commander Phillips has something to report, came the response. Ryan stepped forward, his face grim. 2 weeks ago, Lisa had sent him on the most dangerous mission possible. He had taken a small team of volunteers into Zephyrian space to gather intelligence about Earth's defenses. Admiral, what we found changes everything, Ryan said. Earth isn't just occupied. It's been turned into a slave world. Lisa felt her stomach tighten. Explain. The Zephyrians have kept some humans alive, Ryan continued. Maybe 10 million people scattered across the planet. But they don't know their real history. The aliens have told them that humans were always servants, that Earth has always belonged to the Zephyrian Empire. The children don't even know what stars look like, added Lieutenant Jenny Adams, who had been part of Ryan's team. The Zephyrians keep them in underground cities. They're used for manual labor, maintaining the machines that strip mine the planet. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. She had hoped that most humans on Earth had been killed quickly. Learning that they had suffered for 3 centuries was somehow worse. There's more, Ryan said. The orbital defenses around Earth are weaker than we expected. Half the battle stations are offline. The Zephyrian fleet in the Sol system has been reduced to maybe 200 ships. Why? Lisa asked. Civil war, Ryan replied. The Zephyrian Empire is tearing itself apart. Different factions are fighting for control. Some want to keep the old ways, others want to change. Their bioengineered soldier castes have started thinking for themselves, and they don't like what they see. This was better news than Lisa had dared hope for. The Zephyrian Empire had always seemed unbeatable because it was united. If that unity was breaking down, humanity might actually have a chance. Admiral, called Captain Nina Walsh from her communications station. I'm receiving signals from the Korath Republic. They want to talk, Lisa smiled. Nina had been working for months to build alliances with other species that hated Zephyrian rule. The Korath were warriors who had been enslaved 2 centuries ago. The Thessians were brilliant engineers whose technology had been stolen. The Vorthon Collective were traders who had been forced to give half their profits to Zephyrian tax collectors. Put them through, Lisa ordered. The main screen showed a reptilian face with golden eyes. Commander Sektar of the Korath Republic looked as fierce as his reputation suggested. "Admiral Carter," Sektar said in heavily accented English, "my people are ready to fight alongside yours. We have 150 ships prepared for battle." "Thank you, Commander," Lisa replied. "What about the others?" "The Thessians will provide technical support and advanced weapons," Sektar said. "The Vorthons will handle supply lines and logistics. All of us are tired of bowing to Zephyrian masters." This was exactly what Lisa had hoped for. Humans were tough and adaptable, but they were outnumbered. With allies, they could actually win this war. "There's something else," Nina reported. "I'm getting coded messages from inside Zephyrian space. Resistance groups on a dozen worlds are asking for coordination." Lisa felt a surge of excitement. This wasn't just going to be a human liberation fleet. It was going to be a galactic revolution. Over the next week, more ships arrived at the rally point. Mining vessels converted into troop transports, civilian freighters loaded with weapons and supplies, ancient warships that had been hidden for generations, finally brought out of mothballs and updated with new technology. Dr. Alex Rodriguez worked around the clock to coordinate the technical upgrades. Human neural shielding was installed on alien ships. Quantum jump drives were shared with their allies. Most importantly, human tactical computers were programmed with 3 centuries of hard-won knowledge about fighting impossible odds. "The Zephyrians have always won through overwhelming force and mind control," Alex explained to the fleet commanders during a strategy meeting. "We're going to win through teamwork and adaptability." Captain Joe Bennett, commander of the destroyer squadron, raised his hand. "What's our biggest advantage?" "They think like an empire," Lisa answered. "Everything they do is about showing dominance and maintaining control. We think like survivors. We'll do whatever works, even if it doesn't look impressive." Meanwhile, on Earth, the enslaved humans went about their daily work, unaware that salvation was coming. In the underground cities, children who had never seen sunlight operated machines they didn't understand. In the agricultural zones, families worked in fields that had once been cities, growing food for alien masters. But some remembered. In hidden corners of the slave cities, old people told forbidden stories about the time when humans ruled their own world. They spoke in whispers about flying machines and tall buildings, about a time when humans looked up at the stars and dreamed of visiting them. They didn't know that their dreams were about to come true. Back at the rally point, Lisa watched as the last ships took their positions. 800 human vessels, 200 alien ships from their allies. It wasn't the largest fleet in galactic history, but it might be the most determined. "Admiral," Ryan reported, "all ships are ready for quantum jump to the Sol system." Lisa looked around the bridge at her officers. Katie Blake was monitoring communications from the reconnaissance teams. Nina Walsh was coordinating with alien allies. Ryan Phillips was plotting attack vectors. These people had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. "Send the signal to all ships," Lisa ordered. "Today we go home. Today, we remind the galaxy what humans can do when they fight for something they believe in." The massive fleet began to move, disappearing into quantum jump one ship at a time. Behind them, the empty space between stars was quiet again. Ahead of them waited the greatest battle in human history. Earth was calling them home, and nothing in the galaxy was going to stop them from answering. The human fleet dropped out of quantum jump at the edge of the Sol system, like a thunderclap in the darkness. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of Freedom's Call, staring at something no human had seen for 3 centuries. Home. There was Earth, a blue and white marble hanging in the black. But surrounding it was a ring of massive Zephyrian battle stations, their dark metal surfaces bristling with weapons. These orbital fortresses had guarded Earth for 300 years, making sure no human ever returned. "Admiral, enemy contacts," reported Commander Ryan Phillips. 187 Zephyrian ships detected. "They're moving to intercept." Lisa studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet was arranging itself in their traditional formation, a solid wall of ships designed to overwhelm enemies through pure firepower. It was the same strategy they had used to conquer half the galaxy. "They're trying to contact us," said Captain Nina Walsh from the communications station. "Put them through," Lisa ordered. The main screen showed a tall, pale figure with black eyes and silver markings on its skin. Overlord Vexithaler, Supreme Commander of the Sol System Garrison. His voice was cold and arrogant. "Unknown vessels, you are trespassing in Imperial space," Vexithaler said. "Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Lisa stepped forward. "This is Admiral Carter of the Human Liberation Fleet. We've come home, Overlord. You can leave peacefully or we can throw you out." Vexthalar's expression didn't change. "Humans, I thought your species was extinct." "No matter. You will be again soon." The screen went dark. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," Lisa announced on the fleet-wide channel. "Today we take back our home. Remember, they expect us to fight like everyone else they've conquered. Show them how wrong they are." The fleet split into 3 groups according to plan. Captain Jake Morrison led the main assault force directly toward the orbital stations. Commander Ryan Phillips took the stealth wing on a curved path toward the dark side of Luna. Captain Nina Walsh commanded the Allied ships in an attack on the outer system defenses. The first Zephyrian ships opened fire when the human fleet was still millions of kilometers away. Beams of purple energy lanced across space, but they hit nothing. The human ships were already moving, using their quantum jump drives to appear in new positions every few seconds. "Enemy fire control can't lock onto us," reported Lieutenant Katie Blake. "They're programmed for predictable movement patterns." Morrison's assault group reached the first orbital station and immediately proved why human tactics were so effective. Instead of flying in formation like traditional fleets, the human ships moved like a swarm of insects. Destroyers micro-jumped inside the station's defensive perimeter. Fighters attacked from 6 different directions at once. The massive alien fortress, designed to fight other massive fortresses, couldn't cope with dozens of small, fast-moving targets. Captain Joe Bennett led his destroyer squadron in the most dangerous part of the attack. His ship, Iron Will, quantum-jumped directly into the station's hangar bay and began firing at the internal structures. "This is Bennett," he reported over the radio. "We're inside the primary station, beginning internal demolition." On the other side of the system, Nina Walsh was proving that humanity's allies were just as tired of Zephyrian rule as humans were. The Korath ships fought with savage efficiency, their warriors eager for revenge. The Thessian vessels used advanced energy weapons that cut through alien armor like paper. The Vorthan traders turned out to have hidden weapons in their cargo holds. "Enemy fleet is breaking formation," Ryan reported from his position near Luna. "They're trying to respond to attacks from 3 directions at once." This was exactly what Lisa had hoped for. The Zephyrians were used to fighting enemies who followed predictable patterns. Face your opponent, exchange fire until someone dies, victory to the stronger force. They had never faced an enemy that attacked from everywhere at once. The real breakthrough came when Ryan's stealth team reached the moon. Hidden on Luna's dark side were the psychic amplifiers that allowed Zephyrian commanders to control their fleet. Like a single organism, for 3 centuries these devices had made the alien fleet nearly unbeatable. "Amplifiers located," Ryan reported. "Beginning shutdown sequence." Commander Ashley Brooks led her fighter squadron in the most important attack of the battle. Her small ships darted between the massive amplifier towers, placing explosive charges while Zephyrian defenders tried desperately to stop them. "Charges set," Ashley reported. "All fighters clear the area." The explosion lit up Luna's surface like a small sun. Suddenly, the Zephyrian fleet was fighting blind and confused. Individual ship commanders used to receiving orders through the psychic network found themselves making decisions alone for the first time in their lives. The battle turned in that moment. Human ships trained to fight as individuals who trusted each other continued to coordinate perfectly. Zephyrian ships, suddenly cut off from their command structure, began making mistakes. Morrison led his assault force against the primary orbital station where Overlord Vexthalar commanded the defense. The massive structure was the size of a city, armed with weapons that could destroy planets, but it was also old, designed when the Zephyrians believed nothing could threaten them. "All ships, concentrate fire on the primary station's power core," Morrison ordered. Dozens of human vessels focused their plasma forge weapons on a single point. The alien station's shields, designed to absorb energy gradually, couldn't handle the concentrated assault. They failed in a cascade of sparks and lightning. Morrison took his ship, the New Haven, directly through the gap in the shields. Around him, human fighters swarmed through the breach like angry bees. The station's defensive guns, built to fight other large ships, couldn't track the small, fast human craft. On the station's command deck, Overlord Vexthalar watched his fleet fall apart. For the first time in his 1,000-year life, he felt something new. Fear. How is this possible? he demanded. They're just humans. His tactical officer, a younger Zephyrian who had studied human history, gave him a grim answer. Sir, I think that's exactly why they're winning. The battle raged for 6 hours. Human ships darted between the massive alien vessels, striking at weak points and jumping away before the enemy could respond. Allied forces destroyed supply depots and communication arrays. One by one, the great orbital fortresses that had guarded Earth went dark. When the primary station's power core exploded, the shockwave could be seen from Earth's surface. For the first time in 3 centuries, the planet's sky was clear of alien ships. Lisa watched the last Zephyrian vessels retreat toward the edge of the system. They had lost more than half their fleet. The survivors were running back to the Empire to report that something impossible had happened, Admiral, reported Nina Walsh. We're receiving signals from Earth. The slave population is rioting in 12 cities. They know something has changed, Lisa smiled. All ships begin landing operations. It's time to liberate our people. In the distance, Earth turned slowly in the sunlight, blue and beautiful and finally free. The first battle was over, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning. On the planet's surface, 10 million enslaved humans looked up at a sky they had never seen clear before. Many of them had never been outside the underground cities. For the first time in their lives, they could see the stars, and among those stars, human ships were coming home. Colonel Danny Foster stepped off the landing shuttle onto Earth soil for the first time in his life. Around him, dozens of other human soldiers were doing the same thing, many of them kneeling to touch the ground with their hands. This was the world their grandparents had told them about in whispered stories. The landing zone was in what had once been New York City. Now it was an industrial complex where massive machines stripped valuable metals from the Earth. The skyscrapers his history books talked about were gone, replaced by alien factories that belched black smoke into the sky. Colonel, we have contact with the local population, reported Sergeant Mike Thompson, his communications officer. They're hiding in the underground levels. Danny nodded and activated his radio. All units, remember the briefing. These people have been slaves for 300 years. They don't know who we are or why we're here. Move slowly and keep your weapons lowered. The liberation of Earth was unlike any military operation in human history. The enemy was gone, but the people they had come to save were terrified of them. Generations of alien propaganda had convinced the Earthborn humans that they were a servant species, created to work for their Zephyrian masters. Danny's team made their way through the ruined city toward the entrance to the underground complex. According to their intelligence, nearly 500,000 people lived in the tunnels beneath the former metropolis. They had never seen the surface except when forced to work in the strip mining operations. The entrance was guarded by a heavy metal door that looked like it belonged on a prison. Danny's soldiers cut through it with plasma torches, revealing a dark tunnel that stretched into the earth. Hello? Danny called out in English. We're here to help you. You don't have to be afraid. Slowly, figures emerged from the shadows. They were human, but they looked different from the space-born colonists. Generations of underground living had made them pale and thin. Many had scars from industrial accidents. All of them looked terrified. An older woman stepped forward, her gray hair tied back with a piece of wire. She spoke in a language that sounded like English but was hard to understand. You speak the old words, she said. Are you the sky demons the masters warned us about? Danny removed his helmet so they could see his face. We're not demons. We're humans like you. We've come to take you away from this place. The woman stared at him. Humans, but humans are servants. We are servants. The masters created us to work. Dr. Samantha Mitchell stepped forward. She was a xenobiologist who had volunteered for the ground mission, specifically to help with situations like this. Ma'am, that's not true. Humans built this city long ago. We flew ships between the stars. Your people ruled this world until the aliens came. That's impossible, the woman replied. The masters have always been here. The old stories are just fantasies. Samantha activated a portable display unit and showed the woman images from human history, pictures of Earth before the invasion, videos of human cities, human art, human achievements. The woman's eyes grew wide. These are lies, she whispered, but her voice showed doubt. No, Danny said gently. These are memories. Come with us to the surface. Let me show you what your world used to look like. Meanwhile, across the planet, other liberation teams were making similar discoveries. The Zephyrians had turned Earth into a mining operation that stretched across continents. Entire mountain ranges had been carved away. Oceans had been drained to access minerals on the seafloor. The beautiful world that humans remembered existed only in photographs. But the worst discovery came when Dr. Samantha Mitchell and her team found the genetic research facilities in what had once been Geneva. The Zephyrians hadn't just enslaved humanity. They had been experimenting on them. "Colonel, you need to see this," Samantha called over the radio. Danny made his way to the underground laboratory, a massive complex that stretched for kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps. What he found there made him sick with rage. The aliens had been breeding humans like livestock, selecting for specific traits, trying to create the perfect servants. Children with enhanced strength for heavy labor, others with improved eyesight for detail work. Most disturbing of all, they had been trying to breed out human creativity and independence. They kept detailed records, Samantha explained, her voice shaking with anger. Every genetic line on Earth. They were trying to create a human subspecies that would never rebel, never question orders, never dream of freedom. Danny looked at the rows of genetic samples, each one representing a human life reduced to biological data. "How many people do we estimate are still alive on Earth?" "Maybe 10 million, Samantha replied, "scattered across 12 major population centers. But Danny, some of these genetic modifications have been successful. Many of the Earth-born humans are physically different from us now." This news spread quickly through the Liberation Fleet. Admiral Lisa Carter called an emergency meeting of all senior officers. "We're not just liberating Earth," Lisa announced. "We're liberating what's left of the human species. Our people here have been changed, both physically and mentally. It's going to take time to undo 3 centuries of conditioning." Captain Jake Morrison raised his hand. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from our other colonies. The Hegemony Collective and the Syndicate of Worlds are mobilizing fleets. They think we're weak after the battle with the Zephyrians." Lisa nodded grimly. "They see an opportunity. The old galactic order is collapsing, and everyone wants to grab what they can. How many ships are they sending?" "The Hegemony has 500 vessels moving toward human space," reported Commander Ryan Phillips. "The Syndicate has about 300. They're not working together, but they both want to claim our colonies." This was exactly what Lisa had feared. Humanity had won a great victory against the Zephyrians, but other galactic powers saw them as easy targets. The aliens thought that humans were just lucky rebels who had caught a dying empire off guard. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "All fleet commanders, prepare for departure," Lisa ordered. "We're leaving garrison forces to protect Earth and continue the liberation. The rest of us are going to explain galactic politics to our new neighbors." Captain Nina Walsh spoke up. "Admiral, what about the Earth population? They don't even understand who we are yet." "That's why we're leaving Colonel Foster and his ground forces," Lisa replied. "Danny, your mission is to help our people remember who they are. Teach them their real history. Show them that humans aren't servants to anyone." Down on Earth's surface, Danny was already working on that mission. In the underground city beneath New York, he had set up a temporary school where Earth-born humans could learn about their heritage. The first lesson was simple: how to read. Many of the Earthborn had been kept illiterate by their alien masters. They knew only enough language to follow work orders. But humans were naturally curious, and once they started learning, they learned quickly. "This symbol means freedom," Danny explained to a group of children who had never seen sunlight. "Your ancestors wrote it on flags when they fought for their independence." One young girl, maybe 8 years old, raised her hand. "What's independence?" Danny smiled. "It means no one can tell you what to do unless you agree to let them. It means you get to choose your own life." The girl thought about this for a moment. "Can I choose to see the sky?" "Yes," Danny said. "That's exactly what you can choose." As the weeks passed, something beautiful began to happen on Earth. The underground cities started to empty as people moved to the surface for the first time in their lives. They planted gardens in the ruins of ancient cities. They painted murals on the walls of abandoned buildings. They began to remember what it meant to be human. But in space, Admiral Carter was preparing for the next phase of humanity's return to galactic politics. 3 alien fleets were approaching human territory, expecting to find easy conquest. Instead, they were going to discover why humans had survived 3 centuries of exile. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity wasn't just back. They were stronger than ever, and they weren't planning to bow to anyone ever again. President Kelly Robinson stood at the podium in the newly built assembly hall, looking out at representatives from 47 different species. 1 year had passed since the liberation of Earth, and the galaxy had changed completely. The Zephyrian Empire was gone, broken into dozens of warring factions. In its place, something new was being born. "Friends and allies," Kelly began, her voice carrying across the great hall. "We gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as free peoples choosing our own future." The assembly hall had been built in the ruins of Geneva, where the old United Nations once stood. But unlike the ancient human organization, this new galactic council included species from across the galaxy. All of them had one thing in common. They were tired of being ruled by others. In the year since Earth's liberation, Admiral Lisa Carter had led the Allied Defense Force to victory after victory. The Hegemony Collective had sent 500 ships to conquer human colonies, expecting easy targets. Instead, they found Admiral Carter waiting for them with a fleet that fought like nothing they had ever seen. The Battle of Kepler Station became legendary across the galaxy. Hegemony commanders, used to fighting predictable opponents, watched in shock as human ships appeared inside their formations, struck vital targets, and vanished before return fire could reach them. The alien fleet retreated after losing half their ships without destroying a single human vessel. The Syndicate of Worlds fared even worse. Their 300 ships encountered Captain Jake Morrison's defense fleet at the edge of human space. Morrison had spent months studying Syndicate tactics, and he turned their own strategies against them. By the time the battle was over, the Syndicate fleet was surrendering instead of fighting. But Admiral Carter's greatest achievement wasn't military. It was diplomatic. The old galaxy was built on fear, Carter had explained to the first meeting of liberated species. Everyone conquered others because they were afraid of being conquered themselves. "We're going to build something different." The Allied Defense Force became exactly what its name suggested, a military that existed only to protect, never to conquer. Human ships patrolled trade routes, stopped pirate attacks, and helped colonies defend themselves. For the first time in galactic history, a major military power was actually making space safer for everyone. This confused the remaining galactic empires. The Hegemony leadership couldn't understand why humans didn't simply take over Zephyrian territory. The Syndicate kept waiting for the real human demands: tribute payments, territorial concessions, submission to human authority. The demands never came. Instead, humans did something that shocked the galaxy. They offered to help their former enemies rebuild as free societies. President Robinson continued her speech to the assembly. "1 year ago, most of you lived under the rule of others. Today, you govern yourselves. This didn't happen because humans are superior. It happened because we learned something important during our exile." In the audience, representatives from dozens of species listened carefully. There were Korath warriors who had helped liberate their homeworld, Thessian engineers who now designed ships for the Allied fleet, fourth-hand traders who carried goods freely across space for the first time in centuries. "We learned that freedom isn't something you can give to others," Robinson explained. "It's something people have to choose for themselves. Our job isn't to rule you. Our job is to make sure no one else rules you either." This philosophy had proven remarkably effective. Species after species chose to join the Galactic Council, not because they were forced to, but because they wanted the protection and prosperity that came with membership. The Council's only laws were simple: no slavery, no conquest, no forced tribute. Everything else was up to individual worlds to decide. But now, a new threat was approaching that would test everything humanity had built. General Tony Martinez stood in the command center of the orbital defense platform above Earth, studying long-range sensor data that made no sense. Ships were approaching from dark space, the empty region between galaxies where nothing was supposed to exist. "How many contacts?" Martinez asked his sensor operator. 15,000 ships, sir," Lieutenant Amy Barnes replied. "They're big, bigger than anything in our databases." Martinez activated the emergency communication system. "All Council fleets, this is General Martinez. Unknown vessels approaching from Galactic Edge. All available ships report to defensive positions." Across the galaxy, the Allied Defense Force mobilized faster than any military in history. Human quantum jump technology allowed ships to cross vast distances in minutes rather than days. Allied vessels from dozens of species joined the defense fleet, but when the unknown ships finally became visible, Even Admiral Carter was shocked by what she saw. The vessels were enormous, each one the size of a moon. They moved through space without any visible propulsion, and they absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to drain energy from nearby stars as they passed. "Admiral," reported Captain Nina Walsh from her science vessel, "I'm reading massive psychic emanations from those ships. Whatever's controlling them has mental powers that make the Zephyrians look like children." Carter nodded grimly. This was what humanity's historians had warned about. The Void Lords, ancient beings that had once ruled the galaxy before disappearing into dark space billions of years ago. Every galactic empire, from the Zephyrians to the hegemony, had originally formed as protection against these creatures. Now they were back. The first contact came not through radio or visual signals, but as a voice that spoke directly into every sentient mind in the galaxy. "Children of matter, your time of play is over. Return to your proper place as servants or face extinction." President Robinson felt the alien presence trying to push into her thoughts, trying to take control of her mind. But human neural shielding held firm. Around her, other council representatives were struggling against the mental assault. "This is President Robinson of the Galactic Council," she broadcast on all frequencies. "We don't know who you are, but we're not interested in being anyone's servants. If you want to talk, we'll talk. If you want to fight, we'll fight." The response came as cold laughter echoing through space. "You resist? Amusing. We who devoured civilizations when your star was dust will not be denied by primitive creatures." The first Void Lord ship opened fire, and the energy beam it produced vaporized an entire moon. But instead of terrifying the Allied fleet, the attack had the opposite effect. Humanity had spent 3 centuries learning to fight impossible odds. Their allies had spent generations dreaming of the day they could stand up to ultimate authority. This was that day. "All ships," Admiral Carter broadcast. "Everything we've built, everything we've fought for comes down to this moment. They want us to bow down and serve, show them what free beings can do." The battle that followed lasted for 3 days and became known as the Last War. Void Lord ships, each one capable of destroying planets, faced a swarm of smaller vessels that attacked like angry insects. Human tactics, refined through centuries of desperate fighting, proved effective even against seemingly godlike enemies. The turning point came when General Martinez led a boarding assault on the primary Void Lord vessel. His Marines, protected by neural shielding and armed with plasma weapons, fought their way through corridors filled with creatures that existed partly in normal space and partly in dimensions humans couldn't understand. At the heart of the ship, Martinez found something that changed everything. The Void Lords weren't gods or demons. They were just another species that had gained power by enslaving others. Strip away their mental abilities and advanced technology, and they were as vulnerable as anyone else. "All ships, this is Martinez," he broadcast from inside the enemy vessel. "They bleed just like everything else." The psychological effect was enormous. Across the battle zone, Allied forces pressed their attacks with new determination. Ships that had been retreating turned around and charged back into the fight. When the Void Lord flagship exploded, the rest of their fleet began to retreat toward dark space. But Admiral Carter wasn't about to let them regroup and return. "Pursuit course," she ordered. "We're going to make sure they understand the message." The Allied fleet followed the Void Lords to the edge of the galaxy, where the ancient beings made their final stand. The battle was desperate and costly, but when it ended, the threat that had terrified civilizations for billions of years was finally gone. Standing on the observation deck of her flagship, Admiral Carter watched the last Void Lord vessel disappear into the darkness between galaxies. Around her, ships from 47 different species were celebrating together. "Admiral," asked Captain Morrison, "what happens now?" Carter smiled. "Now we go home. We've got a galaxy to rebuild, and for the first time in history, we're going to build it right." 6 months later, President Robinson stood once again before the Galactic Assembly, but this time the hall was twice as large, filled with representatives from species that had hidden in dark corners of space for millions of years, waiting for the day when it was safe to dream of freedom. "The Age of Empires is over," Robinson announced. "The Age of Choice has begun. We stand together not because we have to, but because we choose to. And that makes all the difference."